Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya Astoro Shishyamat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijayacharya Astoro Shishyamat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananti Goti Vaishnavrinda Ki Nam Acharya Silahridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So, we're reading from page 86. Is that what I'm... So reading from Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrta, A Threat Against ISKCON, Volume 4, and this is in Los Angeles, February 25th, 1970. On the auspicious occasion of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Appearance Day anniversary, the Los Angeles devotees received permission to enter the new temple in Watseka Avenue. The rooms had not even been cleaned, and the large hall was bare, but the devotees brought in Prabhupada's Vyasasan from the old temple on La Chinga, and Prabhupada had them place on it a large picture of his spiritual master. Standing before his spiritual master, Prabhupada offered arti while some 50 disciples gathered around him chanting Hare Krishna and dancing in the otherwise empty hall. After the arti, Prabhupada directed his disciples in offering flowers to the picture of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Then, still standing before the Vyasasan, he said he had nothing to offer his spiritual master on this day except his own disciples. He then read aloud the names of all his disciples. Taking his seat on a low Vyasasan beside the large Vyasasan of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada gave a short history of his Guru Maharaj, son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and powerful Acharya of the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Prabhupada recalled his first meeting with his spiritual master, he told how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had told him to teach Krishna consciousness to the English-speaking world. This large new temple, Prabhupada said, had been provided by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as a gift for the devotees to use in Krishna's service. They should not become attached to the opulence, Prabhupada said, but they should use this wonderful place for preaching. As he spoke, he wept. So just comment a little bit on some points there. And this is the Appearance Day anniversary of Prabhupada's spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was a pure devotee since birth and a very exalted devotee. And Prabhupada is teaching them to worship his spiritual master. But then they also had to worship him. The disciples also had to worship Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, he offered arti ceremony, offered the flowers, and then he offered the devotees. That was the best offering. That was the best part of the offering, actually. And offering his disciples who had surrendered so much and helped Prabhupada in preaching Krishna consciousness in the West, which was the desire of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that part of the offering, you could say, was the best, because he's offering the disciples to Srila Prabhupada. In preaching Krishna consciousness, we make every effort to convince people in Krishna consciousness, and we should help them to come and surrender to the founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, and his disciples, or any senior devotee, and take instructions from him. Like once Tamal Krishna Maharaj was talking about preaching, he was, there's different aspects of it, but one aspect was that, and then Prabhupada said, yes, you're preaching, but what's your result? Where's the results? Then he said, and he called all those, probably in China, Chinese, but all those followers, and they all offered obeisances to Prabhupada. So in that way, offering, or bringing people to Krishna consciousness, it's very nice, it's very good. And we offer them to Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya. They are his followers, and they should follow him and follow the process that he left behind. Taking the process of initiation and surrendering to Krishna more and more, and going back to Godhead. He then read aloud the names of all his disciples. It reminds me that one year, like traditionally when we have our book marathons, we give some gifts and to the devotees for their efforts in preaching Krishna consciousness. But one year, His Holiness Indradumna Swami was here, and he made all the devotees who have participated in the marathon sit in front of Prabhupada. And then they called all the names of the devotees, and they just had to put their hands up. That was the gift. So to me, that was the best gift, but some people were not happy with that. But that was the best gift, that acknowledgement, or that sitting in front of Prabhupada and putting our hands up, and Prabhupada acknowledging that we have done some service on his behalf, some preaching. So that is very important. And to give credit to the spiritual master. The devotee doesn't take credit himself. He always says it's by the mercy of the spiritual master. Sometimes, people are very proud of how much monies they bring in. And they may tell the spiritual master, I've collected so much. That's okay. It's some credit was given for their efforts to collect. But the spiritual master is most impressed when the person is making spiritual advancement. That satisfies him the most. That he's making spiritual advancement. So one has to make spiritual advancement. And here Prabhupada recalls his meeting with his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then he talks about the new temple. He said the large new temple, Prabhupada said, had been provided by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as a gift for the devotees to use in Krishna's service. Yeah, that's very important. Also, we don't use the facility for our own sense gratification. Sometimes we fall short due to weakness, and we can beg for forgiveness for that. But as far as possible, the temple is in an extension of the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, and we live in the temple, and we are meant to render some service for the spiritual master. But there is another important point. He said they should not become attached to the opulence, but they should use this wonderful place for preaching. So when one becomes, attached to opulence, material opulence, even, you get attached to the prasadam and continuously eat mahaprasadam, may not be so good. Then you'll be attached, where then you cannot extend yourself. And when you go to places like where it's very austere and these facilities are not provided, then you may not be able to stay and preach in those areas. So getting attached to opulences, but we use the opulences in the service of Krishna, but we're not attached to it. The other thing is, and we said this before, that the temple is not a hotel. As Prabhupada himself said, where people can just come and eat, sleep and be merry. That's not what the temple is meant for. Temple is meant for propagating Krishna consciousness. So, as he spoke, he wept. And then now we'll read on further. Now bring them prasadam. Prabhupada called, and if the feast began, when the devotees sat on the floor in rows, Prabhupada from his Vyasasan directed the servers, having them bring another samosa to one devotee, more chutney to another, and so on. He watched over all of them and encouraging them to take Krishna's prasadam. So that's how it's, they sat in rows, and that's the way in India they serve prasadam. But sometimes in big festivals it's a little different, like the way we do it here. But in general, they sit in rows, and the person will say, Hari Bol, then they want some samosa, you want some chutney. They don't say they want more prasadam, they say, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Then people come with the, they'll figure out what you want. You need more chutney, you need more of this. So in serving prasadam, when you're serving, you have to serve. You should be satisfied yourself first to serve. If you, like wondering whether there's going to be some samosas left for me, then better you take prasadam. And most people fall in that category. Is that not so? Sometimes we're serving 3 preparations. One person. So that's how it's served, and Prabhupada was directing that. In the beginning, you can eat a lot. When you come to Krishna consciousness, like how Prabhupada said it, like waddle like a duck, So, but our intention is to honor prasadam, but also the lecture is also prasadam. But this prasadam may not be so nice. But for some people, they may just come for the prasadam. But they should be encouraged to come and hear the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. That's an important aspect of Krishna consciousness. Hearing. It reminds me like how one time one person who was listening to Prabhupada's lecture, and he was so inspired. I think he went and told Prabhupada that he was so inspired by the lecture. And Prabhupada said, and the other devotees? Well, frankly, Prabhupada, they all were asleep. All were asleep. They were sleeping. So then, Prabhupada was giving a lecture, then he was speaking, and then he brought up the subject matter, of them sleeping during the class, because probably he witnessed that they're sleeping. So then he asked them, what was the cause of it, that you're sleeping? And they gave different reasons. And one of the reasons they gave, they slept late last night, they ate too much, they had too much of service. Different reasons, different types of different reasons. And Prabhupada said that, they all were not good reasons. So the only way that you will not sleep in the class, if you come to understand that Krishna consciousness is the most important thing for you, the most important aspect of your life, then you won't sleep. Otherwise you'll sleep. So it's very important, Krishna consciousness, hearing the philosophy. Like we have, people come, they just come for prasadam time and they take prasadam and go, Like sometimes I'm shocked, I gave the class here, so many people, but when I went down, there was a huge queues, long queues of people waiting for prasadam. Good, they're taking prasadam. And Prabhupada said, 3 things about prasadam. Yeah, or generally the philosophy is you eat to live or you live to eat. But Krishna consciousness, he said, you eat to die. That's an addition to it. Because if you eat and if you die, then you can go back to Godhead. If you take prasadam. So he's personally directing them and teaching them how they should serve the prasadam. And when we're serving, we should serve with with our heart's content. We want the devotee to be satisfied. We should know what the devotee likes also. As we're serving, we get to know what the devotee likes, and we can serve him more of that. Samosas, dokla, or whatever. It's like that. So you get to know. So then, continuing reading, that afternoon Prabhupada toured the buildings. In addition to the main hall, which we would have the devotees convert into a temple, he saw the equally large lecture hall. These rooms plus a 3-room apartment, ample separate quarters for male and female devotees, a parking lot, and a front lawn made this the finest facility in all of ISKCON. We don't require such a nice place for ourselves, Prabhupada told the temple president, Gagamuni. We are prepared to live anywhere, but such a nice place will give us opportunity to invite gentlemen to come and learn about Krishna consciousness. So this whole International Society of Krishna Consciousness was created by Srila Prabhupada to give people an opportunity to hear about Krishna. That's the reason. Just to come and hear the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And as they hear, they will get attracted and they will surrender to Krishna. And we really don't worry about facilities for ourselves. We can accept any facility for preaching Krishna consciousness. Like we were once in Namibia, and we plan to go again at some point this year. And the facilities, we were living with one white gentleman. He had an apartment in the back he rented to us, which was expensive, and then we decided to leave. We just took all our things and we left it out in the street there because it was too expensive, and it was, this is okay facility, but we just left it on the road. And then we were thinking, where are we going to be staying? We were sitting in the road, 2 of us, and as we were sitting and we chanting and thinking, how are we going to go? Then we started looking for places where we can go. And then everywhere we went, it was just so expensive. But the facilities were were not very good facility either. And then finally, one Indian guy heard of us because we went to the Indian embassy there when we landed. And we were asking for help from the Indian embassy, and the consulate general, I met him, and then he gave a donation also, a few thousand, in their currency is dollars, a few $1,000. And then we were, finally this Indian gentleman got hold of us, and then we started staying with him. And he had like a facility, it's called Ramblers, the Ramblers. But he was an Indian national from India, and he had this facility, which is across the university. So we thought it was ideal for us to preach in the university. But we couldn't really get in there because of it's a Christian-dominated country. But anyway, it turned out to be more Sisi Radharanath ki. But it turned out more to be like a place where many people mix. I don't want to use the word, I'm just like, anyway, many people mix and engage in sense gratification. This is where we were staying, So we were living in this place because we wanted to give the message of Krishna. So sometime a devotee may accept these facilities, and it may be austere, but he does it because he's doing it on behalf of his spiritual master also. So as we started the discussion today was, anyway, Prabhupada offering his disciples. And then the man got tired of us because we were chanting in the morning. So he said, no, you're disturbing the other people. But the other people are engaging in sinful life, we are engaging in spiritual life, and the man wanted to chase us out. So finally we had to sit back on the road, but we kept the facility. We sat back on the roadside and chanting. And as we're chanting, people are going, they're swearing us. So we have to be sitting on the roadside and we're chanting, and we're getting sworn at. So we have to sometime undergo these things. So I'm reading along more. The cost of the building had been $225,000 with $50,000 down payment. Prabhupada had more than 10,000 in his book fund, but that was exclusively for printing books. So although he usually didn't like to deal personally in such negotiation, he made an exception in this case and had asked the other temples to donate to the new headquarters in Los Angeles. He had even mailed snapshots of the buildings to various temple presidents around the world. Thus he had collected the down payment, and on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's appearance day, ISKCON became the legal owner. So, yes, everything should be in the name of ISKCON. And we should function under ISKCON, which functions under the governing body commissioner, the way Prabhupada designed it. And it always dawns upon me that Srila Prabhupada was present, and many people took to Krishna consciousness. But when he left, more people took to Krishna consciousness than he was present. Much more. Now we have so many hundreds and hundreds of temples, we have so many followers surrendering to Srila Prabhupada who never met him. But the reason is, the main reason is we have this body. Whether things are done correctly, not to our satisfaction at times, or to our satisfaction at times, it's because of this governing body that the mission is going on and more people are surrendering to Krishna. Reading on, this was the only temple ISKCON actually owned. All other buildings were leased or rented, and Prabhupada wanted to design everything himself. Hiring professionals would be too expensive, but Prabhupada had plenty of disciples eager to do the renovation. So here again, that using the abilities of the disciples, the acumen. And that's one thing in a leader, that it's an important quality in a leader, that he could ascertain what people can do, or they're competent in doing. So that becomes an offering. And we found that even in Srila Prabhupada's time, that people who were not competent in anything, but they became very competent. Because this mercy was given by the spiritual master to execute the order. And they tried it and they did it. There were artists, there were carpenters, there were so many different people with different talents. So he identified the talents and engaged them according to their abilities. That's very important in somebody who is leading a project. Karandar knew a little carpentry, plumbing, and general construction, and he could learn more by experience. Bhavananda had been a professional designer, and he was filled with Prabhupada's enthusiasm to transform the plain church into a dazzling palace for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. First you make my apartment, Prabhupada told Bhavananda. That's quite interesting. Let me move in and then we will work on the temple room. it's quite interesting that, he thought about, first, let me, have an apartment for me, because then you would say, well, we just read, you should just accept any facility, but no, because he was doing a very important service to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, especially translating all the books and writing and engaging people in the service of Krishna and preaching. So he had to have proper facilities to do that. So when he wanted an apartment, he didn't want an apartment, an opulence, full of opulence, or it was not like that. He was not concerned about that. He just wanted a facility so that he could execute his duty. And sometimes that's necessary, depending on the type of service one is doing. So don't look at that he should just accept anything. And being the founder Acharya, well, he wanted a facility. But then, on the other hand, when in Mayapur, when Prabhupada was in the thatched hut, he was living in the hut, it was a very simple facility. And then they built up this nice apartment for him. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to go there. And although it was such a beautiful apartment, because he was satisfied with the simple arrangement. Then the devotee said, but Prabhupada, that people will, come and see you in this apartment, and, more people be attracted to this facility, and they will come and they will, surrender to you, and they'll become devotees. Then he went. Then he accepted. So this is how, a devotee is. He will do everything on behalf of Krishna. There was another, he never got initiated by Prabhupada, but his name was Mr. Sethi. And Mr. Sethi was from Punjab, I think. He was a Punjabi. He was a very strong man. And if you read the book, I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu story, you'll find a lot of things written about him. Because he helped so much in building the temple. And he was, this last visit, I went to his house many times, this Mr. Sethi. And Mr. Sethi was so surrendered. And but Prabhupada didn't initiate him. It's quite interesting, right? But Prabhupada said, it's okay for you. You don't need to take initiation. Because he had Mr. Sethi engage in activities at that time in the black market for cement and getting all other kind of things. So it was a little bit of a... devotees are not meant to do that in the black market or dealing with things. So he said Mr. Sethi will deal with those things. So therefore, he didn't even initiate him. But Mr. Sethi was very surrendered, and he helped Prabhupada in building the temple. He was prepared to kill people just to build the temple. Because there was so much opposition. It's a long story, but there was so much opposition. And the government was involved, and so many people were against the devotees. But Mr. Sethi at one time, the opposition came and they wanted to attack the devotees, and probably they were armed also. But then Mr. Sethi said his son, I just met his son in Mumbai in March there, February, March. And he told Bridgemon, bring my revolver. So he had a revolver. And then, they came with like gundas. In India there were gundas. Some gundas came with the opposition. But Prabhupada said, you must bring 250 gundas, because I got 250 bullets. There were cartridges he wanted to shoot these people. But he was doing it on behalf of Krishna. So it's interesting, you must read about him, but the point I'm making that he was surrendered, and Prabhupada did initiate him, but he was still very surrendered. And when the time came for him to leave, he was dreaming of Prabhupada. Prabhupada is coming. And he was, and even up till now, they sponsor all Prabhupada's, appearance day, prasadam, everything is sponsored for eternally, for as long as the generation continues. That's how it is. But the main point I was making, that Prabhupada offered him that beautiful building to stay in. He said, that this was built so beautifully, so Mr. Sethi was taking him around and he said, you can stay here. But Prabhupada, but he's saying, Prabhupada, it's for you the Acharya. But Prabhupada was not attached to it. So you have to a lot of people quote Prabhupada. Prabhupada said lots of things. But one has to see the context that he said things. That's also very important. Then Bhavananda, now Bhavananda is speaking. He says, we picked out a part of the Los Angeles temple for Prabhupada's quarters, and Karandar built a bathroom. When Prabhupada came up to the room, he said, this will be my sitting room, this will be my bedroom. And when he came to the third room with his skylight, he said, this will be my library. Prabhupada had told me once in Boston that as a child he had lived in the palace with blue walls, red marble floors, and orange and gold trim, the Mulik's house in Calcutta. So he painted the walls of his sitting room blue, and I put a white tile floor. The drapes were burnt orange satin with gold cords and gold fringe. Prabhupada liked this color scheme very much. So very specific, the spiritual master in terms of color schemes. And that also has an effect on people's consciousness. The way things are set, the way things are arranged. We don't have things lying everywhere in the floor. It has an effect on the person's consciousness. Cleanliness, how clean the place is. Either the dirt go or the Brahman goes, one of the two. Better the dirt go. So Prabhupada also wanted a library, books, and that's such an important thing for a devotee, to have books all the time, You can just pull it out and read, especially when you're reading and cross-reference. Just pull out the book and you read. For me, that's the most important aspect. You must have just books that you just pull out. I'm not worried about the bed so much. I'm worried if you have books there, so I can easily pick up and read. So then continuing. In the bedroom, I asked Prabhupada where he wanted his bed, and he said, put the bed in the middle of the room. We had put down a rug, and Prabhupada said, now you should get sheets and cover the rug with them. In India, they have rugs like this, nice rugs, and they cover them with sheets. And on special days, they take advantage, on special days, they take the sheets off. Otherwise, they would become ruined. So I went out and bought sheets. Prabhupada was in his sitting room when I came in and started putting the sheet over the rug in the bedroom. Prabhupada came in and said, yes, this is very nice. Again, I have introduced something new. This is something new for all of you. Sheets on rugs. Then he told me, now make sure that there are no wrinkles in the sheets. This is how this, when you're offering something to a devotee, it should be like no lines and crinkles, and it should be very, very nice, because it's an offering to the spiritual master. Like in serving Giriraj Swami, he's he's a very detailed person, and he notices everything must be set properly. And like Sukumari and Srila Prabhu and all, they're very expert in serving him. They know exactly how to do everything. And he's very pleased with their the way they do things. Sukumari is like super clean, super clean, and I learned how to clean from a she cleans very nicely. You'll see even just in the kitchen area too, she'll be cleaning and wants everything 100%. Yeah. So, reading on. We were both pressing out the wrinkles from the sheet, and when we got to the end, Prabhupada folded the sheet under the rug. He was very happy there because it was his own place. We had never had our own place before. So it's, we would think that, well, there's so many temples, why should we build another temple? You can give those people the garland. Haribol. Give this garland for the child. Hare Krishna. What's your name? You know me, right? Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So we need a temple, and once one man raised the question. Bhakti Charu Maharaj narrates this, that the man was asking Prabhupada, I was telling Prabhupada, there's so many temples, why do you want your own temple? And then Prabhupada said, who is that sitting next to you? And the man said, that's my wife. Then Prabhupada asked him, why did you get married? So why do people get married? To have, family and children. That's the main reason. Yeah, to have children. So then the Prabhupada said, but there's so many children running out there, why don't you just take one of the children and keep them? But you want your own children. So similarly, we also want to have a temple for Krishna. It's like that. So, yes. So he was very pleased that we could, build a temple. We have a temple for Krishna, and we can offer worship exclusively to Krishna. But if we have other temples, we may not be able to do that. Although we use other facilities. Okay? In the temple room, Prabhupada showed Karandar where to build the 3 altars. He indicated the measurements and instructed that before each altar should be a pair of doors, and over them the symbols of Vishnu, a conch shell over the altar for Guru and Gauranga, a wheel and club over Radha and Krishna's altar in the center, and a lotus over Lord Jagannath. The spiritual master of Vyasasan was to go at the opposite end of the temple, facing Radha and Krishna. So that's how we have it, that Prabhupada is looking at Radha and Krishna always. The The walls should be yellow, which Prabhupada said was in the mode of goodness. Yellow. It's in the mode of goodness. The ceiling should be covered with a canopy, and there should be chandeliers. Once the altars were completed, Prabhupada wanted to bring the deities, even though much of the renovation was yet unfinished. After constructing an umbrella-covered cart and decorating with flowers, the devotees brought the deities in procession from the old temple on Lachinga Boulevard to their new home. So, I'll just read a little bit more. We have time a little bit. We'll take questions also. Yeah. I'll just read this last part, or maybe this page here. Bhavananda, the first time he came into the temple room after his morning walk, he went to the Guru Gauranga altar and paid his obeisances. We all paid our obeisances. Then he stood up and went to Radha and Krishna, and then we paid obeisances. Then to Jagannath, and we followed. Then we walked back and he sat on his Vyasasana, and he told us, now you line up facing each other from the Vyasasana to Radha and Krishna. Face each other. This way, that way, one way you look is Guru and the other way God. And then back and forth, that way. Always leave this aisle, he said, so I can see. So sometimes devotees always say, just move a little on that side so Prabhupada can see Radha and Krishna. Reading on. The deity was the king, Prabhupada said, and all the temple residents were his personal servants. So that is how we worship in the temple. The Radha and Krishna, the king and the queen. But we are all the servants. And therefore we do everything timeously. Like how we would serve a king. He's not our friend that we are serving. We serve in that mood that we're serving the king. But at home, the deities are your guests. They're guests, so you can do things when you want to do. But in the temple, you have to do it timeously. Therefore, we do everything very timeously in the temple. Serving, getting them up, bathing, serving. It's all done, it's very nicely done timeously because he's the king. The temple therefore should be like a palace because king lives in palace. An elaborate temple was important for preaching, Prabhupada explained, because people mostly, especially Westerners, were not inclined to undergo any austerities for obtaining spiritual life. There was an Indian saying, no one listens to a poor man. Were the devotees to advertise classes on Bhakti Yoga in such and such empty field under a certain tree, Prabhupada said, no one would come. But a clean, beautiful building with chandeliers and comfortable rooms would attract many people to visit and become purified. So this temple opening, I happened to come here, and it was quite an experience. And there were thousands of people. There were this whole freeway was packed. They couldn't get in. It was completely packed for the opening. Because people wanted to come and see this temple and they were in awe. They saw such a beautiful temple. But as time went, people still think that lots of people are coming here. Like I met somebody and they said, oh, will we get a place for parking? Can we come there? Because they remembered coming when we opened this temple. They're thinking it's like that. But anyway, it's a beautiful temple and people are attracted to the opulence. And then if you tell people, okay, come in maybe unit 11, we can go across the bridge there and you can meet us there, we'll have a program. not many people will attend there. So therefore, we have it very opulently built. The temple was also for those who wanted to live there as Krishna conscious devotees. Prabhupada said should be willing to live and sleep anywhere, but as a loving protector of the father of his disciples, Prabhupada took great care to establish a large temple and an adequate dormitory facility. He was making a home for his family to see that his spiritual children had a place to live and practice their devotional service was just another aspect of his mission. So yes, the facility is there to practice devotional service, and we should take advantage of the facility and render devotional service for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Will stop here. Any comments or questions? Anybody want to raise anything? You want to say anything, Madhurya? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.